oftentimes they fight if we're not enrolling them, if we haven't recognized them, if we're not empowering them, if they're not working together. That's what
Yeah.
convergence is.
Hi, and welcome to the Kid and Friends podcast. My guest today is David Allen Brown. He's a longtime teacher of personal empowerment, leadership, and spiritual self-discovery. He spent more than 30 years helping others reconnect with their inner power and live with intention. Author of books including Answer the Call, What to Do When Spirit Arrives to Transform Your Life, and the transformational program called Convergence. It's a course designed to help people recognize, regulate, and align three inner voices that shape how we think, feel, and act. Through decades of teaching, coaching, and personal struggle turned to insight, David's work focuses on bringing emotional, behavioral, and spiritual awareness into the clear, usable path for everyday life. How are you?
I'm great, thanks.
Nice to
Appreciate
meet you.
that. Makes me
So,
sound really impressive when they do compact your whole life into a
right?
paragraph.
It's so many times people say that, and it's interesting because it's really just the details of who you are, and
Right.
you're a pretty interesting guy.
Oh, thanks.
So I know you have this program called Convergence, but I would like
Yeah.
to talk about first the three different voices that are
All
inside
right.
of us.
Sure.
And if I got it right, there's spiritual, behavioral, and the third one's just I'm missing it right now.
I think we could, usually there's different phrases, but instinctual or emotional side, it's sort of our base core
Okay.
self. Yeah.
And which one do we usually operate from? Is it all three at once and they fight with each other, or is one usually more dominant than the others?
Well, right. So yes, and that's the point, which is that, they're all three there in my experience, and this is what I've put out. And, when I talk to people, they're often like, well, I have a ton of voices, or I got a whole committee in there. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
sort of like there's variations on these three that are going on. So yeah, they're sort of there, and oftentimes they fight if we're not enrolling them, if we haven't recognized them, if we're not empowering them, if they're not working together. That's what
Yeah.
convergence is.
Okay.
And one of the things that I discovered in my life is that one of the ways that I knew that I was missing the mark or just plain being dysfunctional or just plain struggling is when one of the voices is really dominant.
Okay.
And so that was became part of the recognition, part of the process was
Yeah.
understanding, wait, I don't feel like things are hitting here. I don't feel like I'm really doing the best I can. Where am I stuck?
Okay.
And it can be any of them, including
Yeah.
the spiritual side. And we could talk about all the things that,
Sure.
how I
Well,
knew that in different points in my life.
for you, which one was the most dominant when you realized this?
Well, what day are you asking?
Okay, so it depends
Yeah,
on who's in
yeah.
charge that day.
Well, and even in that part of my life. So there was a long-standing period of time. I was a stay-at-home dad for a long time, and
And can you rephrase that? Because I have guys that are stay-at-home dads. I like to refer
yeah.
to them as trophy husbands.
All right. Well, I felt like I was a little more of the Cinderella mopping the floor husband, but
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
A homemaker, I think, is what I
Okay.
is like.
That
That's what it
works.
was. There was a period in time in there, combined with a number of my idiosyncrasies or dysfunctions, or where I was just in the behavioral, like just do, like I'm
Like on
taking care
cruise
of three other
control.
people kind of cruise control, but then I wrapped that into a bit of perfectionism and then a nice little Superman complex on top of it. So
Okay.
it was all about outcome. It was,
Yeah.
am I appearing to be perfect? Is everyone else taken care of? Do I have the schedules down? Do I know what everybody's doing? Have I made the lunches? Have I done the grocery shopping? Have I done the meal planning? And this is very natural, I think, for many people listening
Yeah.
in that
I
sense
have
of like,
four kids and my wife has worked evenings for 20 plus years.
yeah,
So when they were small, mine are all growing up right now. I have two
okay,
18-year-olds, a 21-year-old, and a 27.
amazing.
And but they still require a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
But but when they were small, like you're basically just treading water every day, trying to
right,
keep your nose above the water line just so you can survive and make it to the next day. And I don't know
absolutely.
about you, But when they would go to bed, I would stay up extra late because that was my free time that I had my quiet. So I
Absolutely.
was
Yes.
burning the candle at both ends all the time.
All the time because I was so desperate for that me time. And it's not even, I mean, it varied, but there were many times when that wasn't even constructive time. It was just like shutdown time or just
Yeah.
or scrolling time. It's like just let me just do something that isn't like always on the go, which is a great
Yeah.
way of recognizing that you're stuck.
Sure.
Like I'm tired, but I'd rather stay up and try and feel something or try and do something than anything else. It's like, oh yeah, well, I mean, it's burnout is another word for it. I mean, that's where
Yeah.
we get when we're stuck in the doing side.
And
And
a
for
lot
some
of us don't
people,
realize it when we're there, right? Like we're
well,
just making
sure,
before you know it, 10 years passed, 15 years passed, and you look back, you're like, I don't know what just
precisely.
happened. I don't even know where those years went.
Well, and we're a culture of doing.
Yeah.
Like we're a culture of like keep moving ahead. Where's your career? What's your next step? Or
Yeah.
where from where are you going to go to college and what are you going to be when you grow up? To I'm out of college, so this seems like everybody's getting married, and if we're going to be married, we might as well have kids. And now that we have kids, then we got to go through all their stages of development, and then okay, well, what about my
Yeah.
career? And what am I? Oh, so now I'm retiring. Like,
You get lost in the mix
of course, and in the
and you forget
plan.
about yourself.
Absolutely. We're a culture that's just like, well, these are the benchmarks. Are you hitting them? And it's
Yeah.
like, whew, and
But
if you're
it's
not,
part of the reason I think like my wife, I have I've had 15 motorcycles. I ride a Harley every day.
oh, awesome.
I own a Brazilian jiu-jitsu school and I'm a second degree black belt. So I ride my motorcycle to my gym every day. But
Right.
when I first got I hadn't had one for like 15 years.
Okay.
And when COVID hit, I'm like, it's time to get another one. And my
Uh-huh.
wife's like, you're going through a midlife crisis. And I said, it's not a midlife crisis. It's a midlife reawakening. I'm
Yeah.
reminding myself of who I was.
That's a phrase we have
And
to reinvent, that midlife
yeah,
crisis, because that's just so raw. It's such a bad framing.
exactly.
Yeah.
But it was that same thing where I was stuck in all these ruts all the time. And any kind of deviation from that sometimes appears to others as selfish that, like
Yeah.
suddenly you don't care about the rest of the group. But it's really like,
Right.
hey, I forgot about me and I need to find myself and get into that. So
Right. I
while
gotta
you're
found the balance.
surviving, yeah, and you're surviving with 3 young kids, you're the trophy husband, and you're staying at home all the time. And
Right.
do you find that you get lost and you're just surviving as best you can for a while?
Well, that's what happened to me then. And what was
Yeah.
intriguing was and I have two and they're grown now to 25, 21. And
Okay.
what I found was that early on, part of what I was able to do pretty well was balance. Like I really felt compelled. There was a strong spiritual element to being there and being
Hmm.
in that position, having the privilege of raising them.
Yeah.
And then emotionally, there was just a lot of fun and I really delighted in it for a long time. When it gets
Yeah.
hard is when they become, well, when anyone we're in relationship with becomes, messy. And I don't
Yeah.
mean like spilling the milk. That's the easy one. It's, all of a
Yeah.
sudden my daughter hit puberty and had entered into a phase we're still dealing with of severe mental health issues and
Yeah.
intense anxiety. And so what happened for me was then that's when that one circle, that one realm of doing became even bigger and bigger. And so as the
Oh,
needs of
okay.
the
So it's
people
getting more
around
and more
me,
attention.
right. And so this sense of, oh, this is really fun, or, I have a lot of emotion here. And then basically just through a lack of practice and a lack of integrating in my life, less inspiration for why I'm doing this or that it's meaningful. And,
Okay. It became
uh,
more
you
of
know,
a chore versus something you enjoy.
right. And that's how, that was I think one of the things we got to admit, for many, many of us, this doesn't happen. This doesn't happen overnight. There isn't,
No.
the descent into dysfunction, or for me, it was depression. It's not like,
Yeah.
oh, I mean, some of us have traumatic events or something triggers us in the rest, but for a lot of us, it's that slow, like I'm losing my
It's
balance
a
and I didn't even
slow
know I was
burn.
losing it. Right. And
Yeah.
so,
It's kind of, it's like the vision I get in my head is you ever see like world's strongest man competitions
no, sure.
and they have something and they're like in a static position, but just weight just keeps getting
Hmm.
added and
Right.
added and
Right.
added. And it's in such small increments that you don't really feel the weight,
Right.
until the day everything crumbles.
Right. Yeah. And I think that that's, I mean, eventually, so we talk about that instinctual, that emotional side,
Yeah,
part eventually, and through a lot of factors. We're certainly not going to say it was just because I was in that role. I mean, there was a lot
sure.
going on, but for me, eventually there was no emotional reward at all. And like depression for me wasn't sadness, it was
Right.
numbness. Like I just recognized there was just nothing. It was just gone.
Was it a lack of appreciation, or was it because I think what happens is you get so deep into that mode that everything just becomes taken granted for as far as the things that are done. It's just because the other person's surviving as well. So there's no
Yeah.
acknowledgement of what you're doing, and you get that little bit of depression where like nobody understands what I'm going through, and it turns out everybody understands because we all go through it. Just nobody talks about it.
Well, I think that was part of it. I mean, remember, am still
Yeah,
holding on to this Superman complex, so nothing's wrong with me. I'm not letting any, I'm
sure.
not showing it
Yeah, you're
or
powering
inviting
through.
it in. That's a huge lesson, authenticity, vulnerability. I
Mm,
think the other thing that was intriguing and specific to my situation was that I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure I buy this line, but I've heard at certain weddings, the preacher will say, and my best advice is happy wife, happy life. And so everybody say, oh, that's funny, blah, blah, blah. But
yeah.
in my situation, what was difficult was that I didn't work outside the home, and so there was this sense of, well, if that was, wait, I'm the wife in this situation. Like,
Yeah.
so that sort of notion of the homemaker needs support and the role of the partner is to provide those specific things. Well, my ex-wife, that wasn't a role that she would have been accustomed to, both from her
Right.
own background, let alone how many people were raised by a stay-at-home dad. So the lack of sort of knowledge of what was needed in the partnership is
Yeah.
almost fundamental when the roles are
Well,
that
especially when you're
that
not talking
shifted.
about it either, and you're
Well,
using that
yeah,
Superman complex and powering
absolutely.
through, and a lot of the times if you don't acknowledge that you're suffering, no one can comfort the suffering.
Oh, without a doubt. And I mean, it was later that I realized how both embedded I was in that and
Yeah.
how harmful it was for me. I mean, I can joke about it now, and I do.
Wow.
When I speak, and it's like, okay, the thing I learned is that everybody loves when Superman swoops in and saves the day, but no one asks him what he's doing for
Yeah.
dinner, and then they just like he goes away.
That's
He
true.
returns to a literal fortress of solitude, waiting for the next opportunity for him to
Yeah.
come and swoop in and save the day. And that was
Yeah.
very much how I felt. And yeah, some of it was self-imposed,
It was
but
other than the lack of appreciation, and other things, but you feel very alone. It sounds like.
yeah, I wrote a memoir, and it's in manuscript form. It's not being published yet. But
Hmm.
when I look back on it, and I realize how much like fundamental loneliness there was
Yeah.
throughout, including being married, but also the structure of, there is, or at least was, maybe still is, this that sense of being the guy at the playground with the other moms, and it's like, wait, who's that man over there? I mean, there is sort of this odd
Yeah. You're the odd
separation.
man out there too. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, I mean, there's just not a lot of assimilation just because people don't quite know what to do. I
Yeah.
used to go. At that time I was working out, and I would go to the gym. I did aerobics, and I used to tease like it was me and all the other housewives. Like,
Yeah.
but it's like I was part of that group, but sort of by definition I wasn't. And so
Right.
there was a little bit of that too.
Okay. Yeah. So you
My
have a lack of
mom.
identity as well as you're going through all this alone time, and um, maybe not maybe that's not the right term, but like feeling
Yeah,
like a misfit it kind of sometimes in some of these
kind of
groups
like
because
that.
you yeah because you're the outside kid.
Well, and part of it too was, and this is very hard to admit later in life because I don't want it to come across wrong. I'm so grateful for everything that was and what I did and my relationship with
Sure.
my children and the rest. And part of it was realizing that it wasn't me fulfilling like my true purpose. Like,
Yes.
I've come back around to understanding that I'm a teacher, I'm a writer. I really am compelled to be on this podcast or provide this
Sure.
program and the rest.
Right.
And all of that was set aside. And I
Like a lack
realized that
of purpose.
ignoring that part of me, among ignoring other parts of me, where it
Yeah.
was, um, we think that's unconscious. We think that, oh, I'm doing the best I can, and
Hmm.
when the right time comes, maybe I'll go back to that thing that made me so happy when I was younger, or that career that,
Yeah,
and we think it doesn't matter. It really matters. And I guess maybe
it
that
does.
is where crisis is the right word at midlife, because we suddenly realize, oh, but it's
Yeah.
not that. It's a
Yeah.
reawakening. Turn
It
back
is
to
exactly
that.
what it is.
Yeah.
It for me, it's remembering who the guy I was before all this stuff.
Yes. Yes, that's exactly how I've phrased it before.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think that, that's part of, for me, what it also was remembering the higher call, the bigger picture, that I don't have to know that answer through trial and error or through experience. Like, remembering the guy I was also remembering that at that point in my life, when I was young and 18 to 25, like, I knew what I was supposed to be doing. Like, I was teaching, I
Yeah.
was doing all these things. And it wasn't suddenly like I need to go sit in the woods and figure out who I am. It was like, man, I remember when I was hearing inspiration and trusting those voices and
Yeah.
following the lead, even if I wasn't sure where it went, because I had so much trust in something bigger than myself.
Right. And so when you start making these self discoveries, how do you start to change and bring yourself
Mm.
back? Because I'm sure there's of those three voices, one is probably dominant during all that time, saying, "Okay, you have to do this, you have to make this happen, kids have to be here at a certain time."
Right.
There's just it's task driven, really, is what it is.
It is, and then they grow up, and I mean, this too. Like, so then,
Yeah,
at various stages in their lives, there's places where they both want you a lot less and need you a lot less, and where
yeah,
you need to let them go more. So suddenly there's space in your life, and it's like,
hmm,
okay, how am I going to fill this space?
yeah,
And on the positive side of that, the first thing that I did we were sort of agreed, like, you got to get out of the house more, was I went
yeah.
and was a substitute teacher at a high school. And people
Okay,
look at, like, are you crazy? And it was like, well, a little, but
just
it
need
was
to be near some
also
people.
people. And, oh,
Yeah,
somewhere deep in my consciousness, I was aware, yeah, remember when you were a teacher? And
yeah,
remember when you worked with young people? And it turned out, I mean, I stayed at that school, and it was all part-time, of course, it wasn't full-time, but for almost 8 years, because it turned out to be this incredibly rewarding experience, because
yeah.
of the role, because I could be the cool substitute teacher, but also because I knew the kids and they got to know me, and I found different ways to support them. I'm
And you
very,
get to
very proud
connect
of
with them,
all that, connect
and
with that. Yeah.
yeah, and you learn
And
with them.
so,
It's interesting. People that don't teach don't understand that. Like
yeah,
I told you, I own a Brazilian jiu-jitsu school. I have kids classes. I have about 50 kids in my class.
that's
Some
great.
of them have been with me for years,
Yeah.
and I know them as people, not as just some kids or somebody whose parent is paying for me to teach
Right.
them. Like I truly enjoy being around them and enjoying their personalities, and it's fun to watch them discover the thing that I love to do all the time.
Hmm.
And to share that knowledge really is it feels good.
Yeah.
It is probably the best way I can say it. It's for me, it's fulfilling. It's selfish. People ask me what I do for a living. I teach kids how to fail, is what I say,
Oh,
because
wow.
they learn and they in a kids class you're gonna bump fists and you're gonna wrestle for 5 minutes straight. If the other
Yeah.
kid taps you in the first 30 seconds, you just start over and go again. So there's no time to dwell on the bad thing that just happened to you. You
Yeah.
just keep moving forward, right? So
Right.
so as things start to happen to you in life later, you're not as effective. Things kind of just wash off.
Right.
But I love the fact that of teaching them and having that experience and people trusting me to be a part of their kids' lives. And it's Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Like for me, regular teaching is way more involved, and you get to see all the dynamics of how kids interact and keep
Yeah.
them. And so you're doing this for 8 years, and you start to have a good appreciation for it. Sounds like.
I do, and I love what you're saying. I want to make sure it doesn't slip past because whether people are get it or not, what you're describing is the difference between a calling to teach and a wanting to get information across or
Yeah,
receive a paycheck. That investment in people is really the foundation of good teaching, and no matter what form you do it, even if it's
sure.
one-on-one or coaching or however. I love that you brought that out. It's, and knowing that you're providing lessons that can form someone's life. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, of course, depending on the day, yeah, I taught Latin or I taught,
Okay, so you were all
geometry,
subjects.
whatever they needed that day. And so, but I also know that, and I know this for a fact, that there are young people who made choices or received support or made decisions or took direction because of the interaction that we had, sometimes
Yeah,
fleeting and sometimes over a couple of years. I mean, I had
sure.
that beautiful moment where a full-time friend of mine who works at the school, uh, and he and I used to get coffee from time to time, and we met, and he told me that story about a student that he had run into who was there because she was going to do her student teaching there after, and they got into the conversation. Well, what made you want to be a teacher? This and that. And this young
Mm.
woman said, well, and David Brown, like that, the time he spent with
Oh,
us, he really
nice.
inspired. And I'm like, okay, good. Like I'm that. There you
If you
go.
just get one of those, you're a
Just
winner.
one of those, right? Yeah. And so that's what I started to really long for. And I wasn't in
Yeah.
a place that I could do it yet. And that
Okay.
was like that was the positive that was going on was
Mm.
okay, remember that Lion King, remember who you are. It's like, here's an
Yeah.
opportunity for me to do that. And still struggling through COVID some where I started to have serious ideation
Mm.
about harming myself.
Okay.
Before it sort of been just out there as a concept, but and it just enough to scare me. And I had
Yeah.
been in therapy before, but not very good therapy.
Okay.
And so the next thing I did was I found a very good therapist, friend of a friend who I trusted a lot, and I was
Yeah.
just like, this is what I'm going through, and the whole thing. And the second thing I did is I walked into that therapy into the first session, and from then on, and said, all right, no more BSing. Like, I've been in therapy.
Yeah.
I've tried to say what needed to be said in order for the
I think a
therapist to
lot of
tell me,
people do that, right?
yeah, yeah,
They just want to be done with whatever the therapy is, especially if it's a couples therapy or if
sure.
somebody's asking you to go on their behalf. Like let's say it was a wife or something. He's like, hey, you
Right.
need to see somebody. All right,
Hmm.
I'm going. I'm checking in. But if you're not fully engaged in it,
No.
you're getting nothing out of it.
And if you can't be super honest about it, including all the
Yeah.
things that, that's the point. That's why it's one-on-one. That's why it's a medical situation. That's why it's confidential. Like if you can't throw it out there,
Yeah.
then wait until you're ready to, because again, a good therapist, there's no judgment there. And so
Sure.
that was an amazing relief. And the second thing that started to happen was that I started to feel my feelings again. And it happened in a small room with one other person there.
Yeah.
And it was disorienting and surprising and also remarkably not just healing. See, that's the first thing we think. Oh, okay, good.
Hmm.
That's healing. Get all that out. It's like, no, no, no,
Right.
no, no. It was inspirational, like the
Okay.
point of including those that the voice, the emotion, the instinctual part of us in the conversation is because all of that is a gift.
Yeah.
All of that is your physical manifestation of the needs and the wants that we have as people. And we
Hmm.
like to dismiss those as events. Oh, I was crying there. I was in grief there. I was,
Yeah.
okay, and I got it out. And
But
it's
but
like,
as
well,
men, it's frowned upon a lot of the time as well,
of
or it's
course.
used against you when you share it with your significant others.
Right. And so then you have a safe place to go back to and say, well, this is what happened in that relationship. This is what happened when I
Yeah.
enacted that. See, we're already talking about two of the three voices. So I
Hmm.
had these emotions and
Yeah.
then I acted on those, and then this was the response. And sometimes it was anger and I did something that wasn't so great. Sometimes it was joy, so I followed through on what made me happy.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was fear and I shared it with someone who I thought I could trust, and I learned this about that relationship.
Yeah.
And either way, all of that is an invitation to, oh, okay, so where might that lead you? excuse me, where
Yeah.
might that lead you? And of course, we get super afraid. Well, I don't want to know that that relationship isn't what I thought it was going to be,
Yeah.
except maybe you need to know that that relationship isn't going to be what you thought it was going to be. Like it's all,
Yeah.
it's the
Part of that
courage
is
to
those
walk down the
voices in your
road.
head lying. Yeah, but those
Well,
voices will lie to you a lot of the
you
time and
bet.
tell you things are okay.
Yes, and what my experience is that when you rely on a single voice,
Yeah.
then we can fall prey to that
Okay.
because that's at the action will tell you, look, all you need is a better job or another
Yeah.
drink or
Right.
to run away or or intimacy or whatever, okay.
Yeah.
And you can fall absolutely, oh, you're right, you're right, you're right. Meanwhile, emotions over here saying, actually, what you need is stability at this. No,
Yeah. Like, hey,
actually,
you
what you
forgot
are is
about
a
me
friend.
over
Yeah,
here.
you right. So when you get one going there, and
Yeah.
then remember, there's a third one here too, which is and look, I'm not starting a church. It's,
Yeah.
it's however it's defined by your listeners, by you.
Hmm.
But then there's I mean, you could call it whatever. There's the what is the greater than you calling for? What is morality calling for? What is your
Yeah.
purpose calling for? I mean, there's so many different ways. And rather than and they're constantly interacting. What we've become good at is ignoring demonizing those, like you were
Yeah.
saying that whole sense, well, men aren't supposed to have all of those feelings. Are you kidding?
Right.
So okay, great. There's a whole bunch of us that just disqualified that entire part of our lives
Yeah.
and are just going, 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 and just buying into the one singular, oh, that voice must be right. But it's when they come to get when they are in agreement,
Hmm.
that's when like life takes off and where we just know the energy, the enthusiasm of living. And that's what I've been trying to teach folks. And because I've experienced it myself.
Do a
So,
lot of people only acknowledge one voice in their head when you're speaking to them about what you do? Like for me, like that when I think of the voice in my head, it's a singular.
mhm,
But after this conversation, I'm kind of looking at it a little bit different. Like, hey,
right,
this guy's neglected over here. This one's over here doing his thing. Like, none of them are hanging out with each other
right,
and figuring out what to do. Like, there's no vote on what's happening. It's usually one
right.
that's dominating.
Yeah.
And I think probably if most people are like me, they're not realizing that there's a couple in the room and they're all trying to do that, but you're just hearing that very loud one who's probably dominating all of the time.
I've heard that experience as well. Well
Hmm.
said. It's just and the other thing that can tend there's two other things that tend to happen. First of all is that the inspired voice, the higher power, the whatever, there's
Yeah.
just great doubt about that. How do I know it's not me trying to talk myself into, what it is, or
Sure.
that that's just coming from within. So
Hmm.
that's one that takes practice to wrap your head around. The
Yeah.
other thing that happens though sometimes is the uh, kind of the neglect of one or the other.
Hmm.
Uh, I mean, let's stick with our example, that sort of sense that, like, oh, I'm not supposed to feel, or
Yeah.
even the notion that I do feel, but some emotions are bad and I
Yes.
don't want to feel those, or I shouldn't feel those. So if
Don't show
anger
them. Don't
speaks
let them
up,
out.
right, if fear pops up, if sadness pops up, oh, well, those can't be good. I'll only listen to that voice when it's happy or joyful or what. Okay, that's a myth. That's
Yeah.
the misnomer completely. What happens when any of the voices are neglected is that they can be a little spicy. And so
Okay.
when they try to nudge in there, then sometimes it's really painful. And so the other experience is that I'll have folks who will recognize them, but oh no, that's the one I don't want to fit. That's the one that keeps yelling at me. That's the one that, is keeps putting me
Yeah, but
down.
maybe he's yelling
Uh,
because you're not listening.
Right. They're right. They have been nurtured in such a way. And so rather than judge that voice, why are you angry? I don't want to be angry. Go away.
Yeah.
Angry. Why are you angry? Let's explore that.
Right.
What action could I take that would alleviate your anger? What injustice have you seen? Thank you for caring enough about something or someone that anger
Hmm.
has arisen. Let's follow that
Right.
for a minute. What might we need to do? And then,
Yeah.
oh, well, I might need to go, plot a little revenge against my neighbor. Okay, so then
Right.
guess what comes in? Then higher power says, now, actually, is
Maybe
that
don't try
really?
that.
Yeah. And then anger says, well, I need to do something. And
Yeah.
inspiration says, well, what if we took it from this approach, maybe loving, self-care, nurturing, finding a solution that's a win-win. And then
Right.
action says, okay, maybe we could, see, like they all have to sort of blend. But you're absolutely right. People are either suspicious of them or just plain frustrated with them. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, no, I hate that voice. I don't want to
Well,
find out what
a
they
lot
know.
of times we go through our days taking crap from other people,
Sure.
and we don't acknowledge that maybe that person's not talking to all three voices in their head, and
Right.
they're acting a certain way. And then when
Yeah.
you have your higher power talking to you and pulling you over and putting his arm around you and giving you some common sense talk, you realize that maybe I don't need to be angry at that person. That person has their own issues, and I can address it in the other ways you were just talking about.
Sure. Yeah. It's one of the fundamental functions of higher power, which I mean, if we go deep down the road of what is that, I mean, it really
Mhm.
is just for me, it's the energy that's unconditional throughout the universe that
Sure.
uh, is unwavering in its love for you and me and for its knowledge that we're important and here for a reason, and that without us enacting us being our best person, then the world will never be a better place. And
Yeah.
so, there's an underlying draw to that. And what I love about that and people say, so how do I know when I can trust that voice?
Hmm.
And it comes down to this. What I love about it is that voice will always be seeking peace, love, prosperity, and joy, and it will always bring you there. And so it will never say don't be angry or don't feel or that shouldn't have happened or you
Yeah.
did wrong. It will always say, and how is this an opportunity to bring us back to the fundamentals of what the universe has provided for you and needs from you? And
Sure.
so the how do I trust that voice is it always leading you to a higher place? And for me, for all my whole career, I've just always put it down into those four things: peace, love,
Yeah.
prosperity, and joy. And so yeah, I mean it doesn't, obviously, it's not stepping in to fix things. Their
Right.
action is still required. That's part of why I came to this balance of three voices. Because, I mean, we talked about being stuck in emotion or
Yeah.
emotion being super tiny. Hey, for a good while, I got stuck in the higher power. There's a thing called spiritual bypassing. And it's that
Okay.
whole notion of, well, that's not my problem. Whatever's out there will take care of it.
Yeah.
I don't need to take initiative or work hard or enact justice.
It'll
Like
work
I'm
itself
not
out.
minded, right? And then I would be sitting there wondering, with an unpublished book, where, well, when is higher power going to make all this work for me? And I was like,
Right.
I'm ready, I'm ready. Bring the ship in anytime you're ready. And then you realize, well, if you
Yeah.
don't you can write all you want, but if you don't show it to anybody else or learn how to get published or discover the process and take steps and make call,
Right.
then
Nobody's knocking on your door to say, "Hey, do you have a book?
right,
You want you want to
right,
sell it? You want to
yeah,
publish it?" Like that's not a
right.
thing that happens. You have to
No,
take some action and
you have to do
and,
something. And
and force change.
even in this day and age where on LinkedIn that actually does happen from time to time, you still have to respond to the email or, take those
Yeah.
things. That's why and we haven't got into it. The last part of the Convergence program after this understanding of recognize and regulate the voices is a manifestation model, which isn't
Okay.
old day like straight line. If I just imagine it hard enough and exactly what we're saying, then eventually the Porsche
Yeah.
will appear in my driveway. My model is much more active than that, relies on the three voices, especially
Hmm.
at different times in the process. But the biggest one, at the 9 o'clock coming up towards the resolution is you got to do the work. And
Yeah.
you got to make a list and check things off and take act. That's why there's a third voice. If it was all up to something else, there wouldn't be an actualized being here.
Well, it's interesting that you put it that way. Like I told you, I started my own podcast after doing like 450 episodes with
Yeah.
two other guys, and like they were both offended that I was gonna go off on my
Mhm.
own initially,
Wow. Yeah.
and I had to explain to them. I said, "This has nothing to do with you guys.
Sure.
this has to do with me and wanting to have some other conversations because something was calling me.
Hmm.
But I had talked about it for a good year and a half, 2 years without doing anything.
Okay.
And you know what? No one knocked on my door and said, "Hey, you got a podcast you want to create?" None of that
Uh-huh.
happened. And then
Right.
one day I decided I had to take some action. So, and my action was I did about 45 solo videos, just half hour each one. Posted them
Wow.
online. I was asking for people's input to see what I was doing wrong on my own and like how I could improve. And I would get some
Wow.
hurtful comments and I would get some
Sure.
good comments.
Right.
But I understood that was going to happen and I put myself out there to do that. But to your point, like had I not talked to myself and said, "Hey, this isn't happening unless you do it." Same with opening my gym. Like unless I took an initial action and started the ball rolling,
Right.
that thing's just going to sit there and
Right.
be static and nothing happens. So to your
Yeah.
point, you have to have some sort of action to cause any type of a change.
Absolutely. And one of the amazing things about recognizing and utilizing the different aspects of our being is that it relieves the
Hmm.
pressure of feeling like you have to do everything. The
Yeah.
answer is you have to do something. That's the
Sure.
one step. And then by taking the action and gauging what the reaction often is on an instinctual side or an emotional side, and then putting
Hmm.
that back into conversation and then inviting, okay, so show me the next sign or show me not. I mean, I'll give you a great example. So I was a substitute teacher at that school for a long time. The students liked me a lot. I had a great relationship with the
Hmm.
faculty. I was thinking what might be next for me, and I really did think, hey, maybe I should be an English teacher. I'm doing it in the middle of it.
Hmm.
I wasn't, but I didn't go to school for it. But there's a process.
Yeah.
There's a certification
Sure.
process. You can do it. And I mean, they need teachers, the whole thing. So I made a couple calls. I called a couple local universities. I talked to the department head at this very school, and the whole, and you know what I got each time? Just closed doors, just things that were
Yeah.
harder than they needed to be. There was no
No
smoothness or
response
openness.
sometimes, probably.
Right. And again, same as you, I didn't take that personal. What I did
Hmm.
was, and I had feelings about that, this is
Yeah.
confusing or a little sad or frustrating is a prime feeling, It's
Yeah.
like, okay, so after a handful of those things, I eventually stepped back and said, maybe this isn't it. Maybe
Right.
this isn't the thing. And I don't know. I'm not going to go back and speculate whether or not I would have been happier if I'd been an
Sure.
English teacher, but I just knew that the other times when it was, hey, I'm thinking about doing this, and the next thing is, oh, well, I know
Right.
a guy, or you should call there, or, okay, do this one step and find that the next one suddenly becomes apparent. That's integrating the voices. It's doing something, understanding how
Yeah.
we feel about it, and inviting inspiration to go move forward or stop, which we're allowed to do. We can
Yeah.
choose again.
Right. And then a lot of us don't realize we have those choices. So when once you realize that there's the three different voices, how do you start to get them to coordinate with each other where
Mm.
one's not dominant all the time and the other one is allowed to speak its piece when it needs to? And is it a quick process or is it something that you have to develop over time where you're essentially rewiring the way you think and react to things and figuring out which voice is talking to you when you're having those reactions?
Yeah, I mean it's something that takes practice for sure. And the steps
Hmm.
are almost like anything else. You're gonna tell me in a minute, like where you start with your students when someone comes into your classroom for the first time.
Sure.
But certainly there's that just introduction. Here are the concepts.
Yeah.
Do you understand? Can you? And I have worksheets, from the simple question to if you ask yourself what you want for dinner and there's an
Hmm.
answer, who answers? Like, can we just recognize that this is a part of the
Yeah.
way we work in a just as a being and
Sure.
recognize then all the way to deeper things on, which aspect of your life tends to respond more in this case and that case. And it's not that
Yeah.
certain voices don't lead the way at different times. It's the practice for me was very much in response to being unsettled. Before I could
Okay.
move it into something that was proactive and constructive, I went through a
Hmm.
ton of change. So after therapy was, hey, I need to evaluate a bunch of things that are going on, which in fact led to a divorce and beginning a
Hmm.
career and moving and then moving again from the Midwest to New York City. And in the
Okay.
midst of this being in a bunch of, all of my relationships being developed and evaluated. And I mean, for me, not everyone goes through this. For me, it was
Hmm.
part of a major tumultuous time. Like I needed to make a big U-turn.
Yeah.
Okay. So in the midst of that, in a very real way, when I was afraid or scared or overwhelmed or whatever,
Hmm.
I had to create this mechanism. And here's the first time. Here's the first. So when you're going through all of that, I mean, if you
Yeah.
go to if you look up what are the five most significant life changes you can have, I was going through four out of the five.
Yeah. It's like move, have a kid, get
Right.
married,
Yeah.
divorce, and I
Exactly.
don't I
Yeah.
don't know what the other
I
one was,
think
but you're firing on all cylinders
yeah,
for
right.
misery.
So I'm in a new apartment in my town.
Yeah.
I'm starting a career.
Hmm.
I've been a stay-at-home dad, trying to figure out money, trying to figure out like, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I wake up one of those days, as you might expect, and I'm having the wrong side of the bed morning. Like just, and I don't know what I'm supposed to do today, and nothing's gonna work. Oh my God,
Yeah.
I'm lonely. Slamming the cabinet door, the whole thing. Fine. I'm just like, all right, I just gotta take a shower, and the whole thing. I'm just grumpy, this and that. And the do side of is just poking at me. Well, what are you going to do? How are you going to make it better? How's this
Yeah.
going to work out? What do you do? Something, do something. So and some people do this through journal. I mean, I'm very verbal, you could tell, but
Sure.
this is, I mean, I'm hearing, and sometimes I do this out loud, and so I'm literally in the shower. A lot of us have our best ideas in the shower, and here's this. Well, what are you going to do? What do you do? And then finally the question, well, what do you want? Which is a
Yeah.
scary ass question,
That's a very scary question because most people that I've talked to don't know what they want.
right?
They think
And
they do.
and then suddenly there was another voice and it said, what I want is to be loved no matter how I'm feeling. Stop bossing me around.
Oh, okay.
This is the instinctual side saying, look, I'm grumpy and I'm
Yeah.
afraid and I'm scared, I'm sad, and I just need to be that. And I need you, the actualized self, to settle down and let us figure this out as opposed to poking me in the ear constantly
Right.
or saying that I have no worth. Because
Yeah.
if I
Yeah.
say any part of me has no worth, then what my body hears is no part of me has any worth.
Sure.
Because it
Well, it's
just,
it's hard to
right.
plus when you're moving to a new location. Like I've lived in other cities and states. A
Yeah,
lot of places won't even hire you unless you've been a resident for a certain amount of time. So you show
sure.
up and you got a different ID from another state, they're gonna
Right.
look at like, oh, this guy's transient. He's not gonna be around very long. Like
Yeah.
so
Plus,
so
I'm
just that part
self-employed.
of it is tough.
Yeah, I'm looking for contracts left and right. I'm not even looking for, traditional job.
Yeah.
What that did for me, though, it was my first remembering that how I'm feeling voice is valid and worthy.
Mm,
And it surprised me in the moment. It's still the example I use as, oh, that's when I realized the worth of my instinct and emotional side.
yeah.
And then there were other times. I mean, as amicable as my divorce was, there were lawyers involved, and nobody's better at messing things up than a lawyer. And there
Sure.
was a point in my process in which something went very, very wrong. I had been misled and misrepresented, and I was
Yeah.
furious. And well, when I grew up, anger was not like you did not do anger because I
Yeah.
saw anger and it was destructive. And so I
Okay.
learned at a young age no anger. So here I am now with this newly empowered, like, how do I feel? Oh, this is important. And I am furious. I told my kids
You're like a
later, I'm
shaken up soda bottle.
like, you have never seen me like that before. I literally had to call friends and say, what do you do? Like, I
Yeah.
don't know what to do because I am angry. And one of the greatest gifts I got was a friend who just very quietly said, well, anger is the appropriate response in this situation. Wait, validation for my feelings?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, this is all an answer to your question, like, what does it take to integrate these things?
Sure.
Yeah, it's recognizing it's there. It's getting validation or validating for ourselves that that's real. It's dealing with the moment, which
Right.
was scream in a pillow or shake things or call friends or whatever. And then it
Yeah.
was inspiration coming in and saying, okay, so why do you think you felt that way? And what action do you need to take? What is
Mm,
that based in, and how does it get you from here to where you want to go? Oh, that's pretty amazing to have that sort of sense. And some of us go to therapy for that. Some of us have a partner who is excellent at drawing
yeah.
that out of us. Some of us have a best friend who can do that. And I discovered, because of my circumstances and who I am, that I could also do that for myself most of the time. I still get
Yeah.
help from time to time
Oh,
too.
for sure.
Yeah.
But when you can do it for yourself, that's the best version of it, I think,
Well, and
because
that's
you're
what I'm
not
trying to offer people is this sense of like you
yeah,
know,
you're not relying on somebody's external comments or thoughts when you
yeah.
can get them yourself from yourself.
Well, and depending where your faith lies, and
Hmm.
mine is in an amazing broader system of energy that surrounds us. Why would I rely on my own tiny little experience when I could
Right.
be
When the
practicing
universe can
inviting
guide you.
in the greatest, the entity that's always right, that always has the answer, that always
Yeah.
cares the most for me. I doubt whether or not I am good for me sometimes, but I
Sure.
know that the universe is good
I'm
on
my
my side.
biggest enemy some days.
Right,
Like I know I should act a certain way in certain situations, but
right.
my feelings take over, and then it's all downhill from there. And
Precisely. And so
yeah.
if we don't know who to turn to in those moments,
Hmm.
or we don't have the inner awareness to know where to turn, which
Yeah.
is to our faith, to hope, to something bigger, to broader, to the practice, back
Yeah.
to your question. Yes, it takes. I mean, one of my exercises that like I have a worksheet. This program that's online has so many different activities. It's not just me talking.
Yeah.
One
Well, you
of
have
them is,
5 that you can learn right away as a free offering, right? I
oh
thought
yeah,
I saw on
absolutely.
your website.
Yeah, because there's kind of a university version of the whole thing, but now we have this
Yeah.
quick start, which is less than an hour, has my five best programs or exercises in it, super fast, way
Okay.
cheaper.
Yeah.
But one of those exercises is a list of, I think there's 36 or 38 different spiritual practices that I pulled from all different traditions and faiths and all. I mean, it's everything from a regular meeting like a Sunday service
Yeah.
to a daily meditation to being in nature to I mean it's this whole long list like what connects you. And the
Yeah.
reason it's there and for people to evaluate with this form that I've created is because you have to know, like you have to practice, you have to
Yeah.
discover these things. And I think that, there's a lot we teach each other, and a lot of it's information, and a
Hmm.
lot of it is subtle, just based on tradition or what my family was like or circumstantial.
Yeah.
But there's so much we want to know
But
that we have to go seeking that information.
one of my
Very,
biggest complaints about
yeah,
the educational system is we spend so much time on book smarts.
yeah,
We don't spend any on emotional
right,
intelligence or anything else like that, right?
yeah.
Like you spend a lot of time in school, but you're learning math, English, science, gym, whatever the other classes you're taking. But I don't recall ever having one teacher pull me to the side and say, "Hey, maybe this is a different way to think about a situation."
That's right.
And we
Yeah.
put zero effort into that. And if you look at a
No.
lot of kids these days, you can tell
Well,
that.
sure. And part of how I make a living is I do corporate training in leadership and facilitation and management and leadership skills.
Okay,
Guess what I teach guess what I teach all day long? Emotional self-regulation,
yeah.
emotional intelligence, empathy, communication skills, all of
and
these
it
things.
and it's
Of
universal, those skills that you can apply to everything. Like one of the
course.
conversations you asked me what I say to people when they first come into my
Yeah,
class.
right. Please.
The very first thing I say to them all the time is, you already did the hard part. Like you showed up,
Yeah,
right? It's
right.
scary. You're walking into a room of a bunch of gorillas that are ready to beat you up. And the name of my gym is an unusual gym name for fighting. It's called Good Vibes Brazilian Jiu Jitsu,
Okay, good.
and everybody's like, it's overwhelmingly friendly. Like
Hmm.
everybody trains hard, but everybody is cares about each other and respects everybody. We don't have
Yeah,
any jerks. I've had my gym for 6 years. I've been training for 20. I've never advertised once, but I have one of the biggest gyms around with most students, and they find us. But I
yeah.
always say, like, the hardest part was walking in the door, which is that very first action that you're talking about.
Hmm.
And when I started Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, it was about fighting other people because I thought I was a badass. Very
Okay.
first class, got the crap kicked out of me, like just badly. and
Right.
it was awesome. And I went home, but it took me a few years to start understanding the lessons I was learning on the mat, which is what you're talking about, the emotional regulation.
Right.
Like when I first started, like a rear naked choke is where somebody has their arm around your neck and they're choking you. Like first 2 seconds of it, you're tapping right away, and then years later, you're just sitting in it. And now I have the wherewithal where I understand my escapes or whatever I'm going to do to get out of it. And there's no panic. So
Yeah.
that emotional knowledge to keep my brain in control of the situation and not react to the physical part.
Yeah.
And for you to be in these corporate trainings and you're teaching the emotional regulation and all these other things, like that goes beyond the business part of it. That just goes into
Yep.
every other thing you do.
Completely, totally. And I mean, it's just such a great example of that. I mean, when it first happens, when your first response, when you try something new, like
Yeah.
there's gonna be this learning curve. And I think one of the traps that I got caught into was this sense of like, well, once I know something, then I'm good.
Yeah.
Like, and that, that's what again, that's what we're taught. Like when you hit this
Hmm.
graduation point, when you get this degree, then okay, you're gonna be all set. And then people think, oh, now I'm gonna go and like live my life, whatever that means. And
Yeah.
except like doing this work, stepping into a new gym, understanding that things will be hard, taking these
Yeah.
lessons that are beyond knowledge but are into the human experience, that is life. Like
Yes.
that's what we're supposed to be doing. And I really did get caught up in there being a destination as opposed to a process.
Yeah.
And that's part of why like the daily integration of how I'm feeling and what I'm doing and am I aligned with my purpose? Like
Yeah.
that's how I found meaning day to day, let alone whatever I'll manifest on behalf of
Well, we
what the
we do
world
like
needs from me.
we do major belt promotions every year, and the very
Okay.
first belt for an adult is a blue belt.
Okay.
And we know that whenever we do promotions, right after that, we're going to lose a fair amount of
Mm.
people because they
Yeah.
have that same attitude. Like now I know something.
Yeah.
And it
Right.
turns out like you're just at the beginning of this. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, there is no finish line.
Yeah.
It's a marathon. It's not a sprint to the finish line
Right.
because there is no finish. You're just going to burn yourself out trying to run to it. Understand that there is no finish line and build off of the things that you always learn.
Yeah.
Like the things I learned as a white belt didn't make a lot of sense until I hit blue belt. Things I
Okay.
learned at blue belt didn't make sense until I hit purple belt. Same until I hit brown. And then when I
Right.
hit black, I realized I didn't know anything. And
Right.
now I'll be getting my third degree on my black belt this year, which means I've been a black belt for 9 years. I still have days where I feel like I don't know anything, but I understand it when I see it.
Yeah.
And it's
Right.
that part where I'm like, I have the understanding that I don't know everything.
Right.
And I've got the emotional regulation when something's not going right.
Sure. And what I also hear you saying is, and you have now a deep trust for the process, which
Yes.
again, just like that, just so that's just fundamental to life is this
Hmm.
sense of it's not just happening to me. I don't have to react all the time. I don't have to
Yeah.
know every answer. And you've come to that place, it sounds like, in your journey, particularly
Yeah,
in
for
this
sure.
sport. It's that sense of like, okay, and how much richer is the experience because of that
Oh, it's
trust
a
and hope
million
and faith.
times better.
Precisely. And I went into things. I mean, I just got so caught up in that, like, if I can't do this perfect, I don't want to do it at all. And it
Yeah.
took me
Perfection's a
so,
killer.
oh, took me so long to understand that. Oh, the process. Wait, this is it. Like,
Yeah.
this. If you're not enjoying the process, then that's then that's the voice saying maybe
Well,
you need to look for something else.
it's a good point that you say that because there's days where uh I've overbooked myself or made myself too busy. And
Okay.
so I'll teach class at 6 o'clock in the morning a few days a week, and then I'll go to my day job, which is a sales job all day long. Then I'll
Mm,
go back to the gym and teach, and then I'll be back in the studio at 9 o'clock at night and having some interview. And
okay.
there's no off switch. And I had hit a point where I was like, oh, I'm burned out. And then I reminded myself that I love it. And
Mm,
then
mhm.
when I was able to do that, it changed everything for me. And it's same with like the kids classes because the kids can wear you out.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm the only instructor for 30 kids.
Yeah.
And they're all exactly where I need them to be now. And I have them where I want. But there were days where I'd be like, I don't know if I can do this. Or I've already talked myself out of it before I've even showed up.
Right.
And I've learned that ability to not talk myself out of things, or to have a little self pep talk, right?
Hmm.
For my day job, sometimes if I'm in bed at night, it's midnight, and I know I have something to do the next day, rather than dwell on it, I shoot myself an email, and
Okay.
then at the end of it, I say, "Hey, you're doing a great job," and I'll do like a little pep talk to myself.
Nice.
But when I can remind myself that I truly enjoy what I'm doing, and take a step back and get out of whatever that moment is. I just hit that with my camera, if you saw it.
All good.
Uh, and if I hit that, or if I get myself out of my mindset, everything gets screwed up.
Hmm.
And it's, to your point, like I just have to remind myself, okay, this is
Right.
why I'm doing it. And
Yeah.
I'm not the all end all be all answer all everything. I'm a
Right.
student. Every time I'm teaching, I'm still a student.
Exactly. And every
Yeah.
time you say the phrase, and I have to remind myself, that's exactly what I'm just inviting people to do and just to
Yeah.
understand, to recognize those voices, especially if there's, neglect or something that's where those voices are, angry and frustrated and saying, and are bringing you down
Yeah.
because you're going to find that it's the same voice. It just needs to be nurtured a different way. It just needs to be included and
Sure.
respected in a different way. So I mean, I love what you're saying, and it's very much the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't want. I mean, I know this is a very self-actualized approach that we're taking, and I
Mhm.
want to make certain that everybody understands that, like, really the most fundamental way that I practice and learn and remember to do all of this is in relation with other people. And
Yeah.
so what you were saying earlier, if someone's giving me stuff, their darker side or they're coming from me in a different way, like that's a huge invitation to not just react some way, like to go into and
Yeah.
find that balance of how I feel and why, and oh, well, what do I want to feel and why? And so what might I do in order to make that come around? And so there's no sense of like, oh, once you master this, then you're going to be that guy at the top of the mountain just sitting there
Yeah.
meditating. No, this is really fundamental so that we can respond, not react to all of the stuff and people and things that happen to us.
Yeah. It's mental jujitsu,
Yeah, right.
right?
Yeah, because
Because
is
there's a
that's a
counter for
concept too?
everything.
There's a counter for everything. Tell me about that.
So I'm one of the few schools that the way I teach is, um, a lot of gyms, you'll learn a technique, you come back the next day, it's something completely different. All of
Okay.
my stuff is related for a few weeks at a time.
Okay.
But one of the things I do a few times a year is I spend a good week to 2 weeks to 3 weeks just on counters, on how to escape things and how to get out of them, and move yourself to a positive position. And I watch
Okay.
my guys do it all the time. Sometimes my guys hit me with it, and I love it when it happens.
Yeah.
Like, you'll hear me laugh because I was like, okay, you were paying attention. But you're essentially teaching that same skill, where you have this situation that presents itself to you X amount of times, and maybe you don't react to it every time a certain way, but for the most part you're reacting the way you should, or the way that best suits whatever your problem is,
Hmm.
and you're teaching them how to counter it, whatever that emotion is.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
how to, and I liked too what you said before about how to relax into the process and know what's happening and feel confident that you have the tools.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not knowing what to do, it's knowing what to do when you don't know what to do. And
Yeah.
so it's that, and that, like I say, that desire to do, especially for some men and especially
Sure.
for fathers and especially for people raised in the Midwest by my father, which is like, just fix the problem and move on. Like there's
Yeah.
just this urgency to like just do, like let's just
Right.
make this right.
Well, some
Okay.
people don't have all the tools. And one of the explanations I tell a lot of my new guys is like, you're not going to fight another new guy in class.
Mm.
And they'll be like, why? And,
Yeah.
and I'll be like, well, you don't have any of the tools. The only thing you have is a hammer right now, and everything looks like a nail. And you're
Yeah.
just smashing that hammer into everything. And it's not going to fix a single thing. You
Right.
just don't have the tools. And you're giving folks tools to
Yeah.
use to
Right.
be able to fix a situation, versus like maybe your dad was the guy with just the hammer, where
Yeah. Right.
whatever it is, fix it with a hammer,
Just
right?
fix it. Right.
Yeah. Do you ever
And
see
so,
My Big Fat Greek Wedding? Do you remember that
oh,
movie?
I do, yeah.
Like the dad's just sprayed Clorox on everything because that
Right.
was his fix,
That's this
right?
thing,
Like,
right? Yeah.
but it's that kind of thing, and you're helping people develop their tools, and not only owning the tools, but being able to identify which tool to use in the situation that's going to help you survive the situation or improve upon it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I guess that's the end run to the whole conversation is where were you and where did you go and where have you come to, which is just this
Yeah,
remembering that, like, yeah, that's what I'm supposed to do.
sure.
Teach and spread the message and remind people that they're amazing and that they have the power and that within
Yeah.
them is the opportunity to be both exactly what they want to be. And then, I don't need to be shy about also because I think this is the thing that actually makes the world a better place.
Oh, absolutely.
People
You give good
actualize and
intentions to one person, and they'll spread it.
well,
It, it,
right.
it
And they'll spread it in whatever sphere of influence they
yeah,
have. And that's how we're going to move forward here is people coming to trust the process and rely on a morality that comes from a higher place
yeah,
and take action that suits that and trust their emotions and feelings and move forward as authentic human beings. And
sure.
these are the to me the building blocks of how growth
And
occurs and therefore how growth works globally.
with your website, the Convergence, the five parts of that first initial part, you said that you offer that smaller course to help people. Like, what are some of the things that are on that course that somebody would encounter with your program, and then maybe elaborate on the bigger program?
Yeah, sure. So the five modules are are very similar. They're just very condensed versions. And the goal of it is there's a module that is like, hey, do you understand and can you recognize the voice? Like just fundamental, what we were talking
Okay,
about before. What's the first thing that you say? So it's
sure.
10 minutes on basically how I developed this, what the concepts are, why we use the visuals that we do,
Mhm.
and really inviting in especially the perspective of higher power because it really is integral to the thing. I mean, if you're
Yeah,
if you're agnostic or atheist, then this isn't the program for you.
right.
So then what we do though is we go into, and this is in both programs, is that sense of, okay, so what's the intention of each of those things? What we've
Mhm.
done here in this conversation in an overview too. What really are the needs and wants of the do side of us?
Yeah.
Fundamentally, why is it there? Why is it this integral part? Can we recognize that that the other parts of us can serve and support that?
Mhm.
And how do I recognize it? How do I know that what the intentions of that voice are? How do I heal it if necessary? How do I, and what's the primary exercise for really activating it in the conversation?
Right.
So, for example, and so those are the next three modules, one for each of the circles. So
Okay.
when we do the one on feel on emotion, for example,
Mhm.
so the exercise on that is one that is very much about um, recognizing how we respond to things and then doing a process of seeing the gifts that each emotion brings. Can
Okay.
we
Like
begin to
a little
understand?
bit of mindfulness on and
Yeah, right, precisely. Not just, oh, it's there, but okay, so how do I experience it? How do I integrate it?
yeah.
How do I love myself through it? How do I
Well,
reserve judgment from it?
integration is a thing a lot of people lack.
Absolutely.
And all day long. I can't tell you. I was talking to my oldest daughter, and she's like, "I saved so many Instagram motivational videos," and I said, "What do you do with it?"
Yeah.
She's like nothing. I absorbed it for a second, and then it went away, but I didn't integrate it.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of psychedelics and integration of those into your life, and with
Okay.
those, you have to have an intention before you go in,
Yeah.
and then you figure out something that you learn while you're in whatever journey you're on, and when you come out,
Absolutely.
what are you going to do with the information you learned? And it's the
Right.
same for anything you learn. Like, you
Without a
could
doubt.
have light bulbs going off in your head all day long,
Yeah.
but if you don't do anything with the integration, nothing happens. So
Nothing
so
happens.
that fifth step is helping somebody figure out how to integrate some of these thoughts and processes.
You're exactly right. That is what the fifth step is. Okay. So now that I have an awareness of these things within me,
Hmm.
what you said even from the very beginning. I heard you say, well, I know they're there, but they don't talk to each other. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, well, how and why would they talk to each other? And when we know
Hmm.
what each part needs, it becomes apparent to us how the other two can provide for that need.
Yeah.
So if our emotional selves want peace and unconditional love, like that's what they require in order to function as a human being.
Hmm.
Okay, well, peace is going to come about because on a very real level in our lives, we create a structure which allows us to feel supported and avoid fear. But unconditional love, if we're looking at it from external, will always be a challenge. But if we integrate higher power, which is that love, then we can always have a resource for that. And I don't
Wow.
always remember, and it's not like I, skip through the streets and like, oh, I'm love. It's that
Sure.
I have to take the action and integrate. And
Yeah.
so with each of those relationships between these voices, then we explore how do you do that?
Yeah.
And it becomes
And
very,
is
very
that
practical.
is that a one-on-one conversation that you're having with someone, or
I
uh
do coaching occasionally under
okay.
that, and it's
But is it
absolutely.
self-realized as they're answering all these questions?
Oh, it's absolutely a guided thing. Yeah, this doesn't
Okay.
come, and again, I have to resist my desire to fix when I'm working with other folks because, and the workbook that's provided in that fifth module is really it's a print version of how to have that conversation. It
Okay.
literally is called the convergent conversation. And so it's start here and do a diary with where are you beginning? And it might
Yeah.
be an action or something you react to, it might be a feeling that you have. Okay, great. And then it'll be so how invite this question or this part of you to respond and do that. And then you write about that. And then it literally walks through how to try to find that agreement and to
The
know what the core needs and wants are. And
the
then,
power of that is incredible, of putting your thoughts to paper, or even
right,
having a conversation, because they're kind of the same thing, like getting them out of your head.
sure.
And but having some sort of, I don't know if diary is the right word, because people frown on that word for diary
Mm,
as a man or
journal
whatever.
or yeah,
Journal, right? I, I I realize that with a lot of people that help themselves or help others, they do a fair amount of journaling, and I
yeah.
have never done it, but for the last month I've been doing it every day when I have
Oh,
certain
wow.
thoughts,
Yeah,
and those fleeting thoughts that go in and out of my head are now written down somewhere so I can address them.
yeah.
Like the other day, I was just sitting there for no apparent reason. I just sitting there thinking about something in it, and a voice in my head said, you want the people who don't want you, but the ones who want you, you don't want." And it was
Mhm.
essentially like me pushing away the certain people and chasing other things where it's not, but it was a
Yeah.
realization. So I started in my,
Mm.
and actually used my phone, I used my notes,
Okay.
and I started a section that says self-realizations, and that's
Yeah.
the first one in it. I've only put it
Yeah.
in there the other day, but
Perfect.
it was in action, and I've gone back and looked at it a few times,
Yeah.
and then I know I have other things, and I started other categories for myself to check in with. So I love that
Absolutely.
idea of having a workbook and putting stuff down. And I'll give you a separate example. When I told you at the beginning, I at the end of 2024, I asked ChatGPT, like, what's going on with this. But the
Yeah.
reason that prompted it is because I had downloaded a YouTube program, like how to get better at doing YouTube stuff,
Yeah.
and there was a lot of questions. I didn't have answers to any of them. I
Yeah.
was just winging it. And
Right.
and when I started answering them, I'm like, oh man, I haven't thought through any of this stuff.
Yeah.
And then it would ask another question. I'm like, oh, I don't know on that one. And I realized that, let's say there was 10 questions, 9 of them I didn't have an answer for.
Right. Yeah. Right. It's such a great summary of what we were talking about before, as far as like what is life and in the simplest terms for people, because I mean we've talked about a lot, and so
Yeah.
people who are listening, you have to understand what you're describing is really just the first step, which is awareness.
Yes.
And it's not knowledge, it's not answers, it's not knowing, even that's further
Yeah.
along on my thing. It's just an
Yes.
awareness of the voice, an awareness of a process, an awareness of what you don't know. Like that is the most powerful
Yeah.
inspiration in the universe, is when you suddenly have an awareness that well, I wonder about that, or a what if, or just a
Yeah.
curiosity, or just a, how is that make what that's all that's required. That is the spark of inspiration is just
Yeah.
awareness. And I hear you saying that, even if the awareness is the things you don't know.
Right.
The other powerful tool, though, is and then the do. So,
Yes.
okay, now I have this, and I've gotten through the question, and you've talked about this on your journey. Like, and then eventually I had to do those videos and get feedback and be
Yeah.
open to that and listen to what was next. The journal isn't everything that I do isn't okay, great, let's just be aware and then gather a bunch of knowledge
Right.
and then there you go. No,
Takes work.
that's why there's the being circle. It's a verb. It's
Yeah.
being, then we do. And that's where power comes because then the whole thing starts up again. You have new awarenesses that you want to explore. This is what's expansive both for individuals and for our world.
So with the two programs, you have the one with five, and then how many sections are in the other one? I think you said
So the other
34
one
or something
has
like that.
seven different units,
Okay.
and within each one, there's it's like 28 different modules, and
Okay.
then more than 30 worksheets, and the whole deal. Like it's a big course.
But do you
Uh,
recommend doing the 5-step one first and then moving into the others, or
I
can you
really worked
jump
hard to
into
make
both?
sure that the five-step one wasn't a sales pitch and had powerful and meaningful
Yeah.
tools that could be used. I think it's frankly just more digestible, like based
Well,
on time, and
I
you're looking for some action. And like I think it's powerful.
but I
I think it's
love
a
those
great way to
kind of
start.
things that are useful. It's not because you don't seem like a guy who's like a sales pitch kind of guy. Like,
Well, right. In fact, I had a consultant who was really pointing me that way, and I was like, yeah,
yeah, but
So
like, think of it like with my jujitsu school. So I had a woman today. She texted me and she's like, "Hey, I'd love to come try your classes. Do you offer a free trial?" I'm like, "Come to as many as you like, and you decide."
sure, right, yeah,
And she was a little taken back by my answer, and but that was my honest answer. I want you to decide, and I need you to figure out if this is beneficial for you. I'm not trying to sell you on anything. And
totally.
for me, like those 5 questions is like how to get people hooked on crack. What do you give them? You give them a little crack,
Give him a
right?
little
And they
crack,
they
right?
yeah, and
Yeah,
they realize they love it, and next thing you know, they want more. So
yeah,
if you get 5 steps that are very useful and very handy and can start a transformation,
right.
then why not do all the
People want
others?
to go deeper. I think, and
Yeah.
yeah, plus, no matter what people register for, become part of a community of folks who and access to me to talk about it. We
Yeah.
do Zoom calls. We do a little extra teaching, but then we dive into where people are. Are they struggling with different concepts? Is there
Sure.
something more that's not clear? The rest. And so, it can be the start of a journey in a minute in a bunch of different ways.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and
But like you take those skills and apply them to every part of your life, not just the problem that is most present at the moment.
right, that's the goal. And the manifestation module, which is part of the full program, it's also available as a standalone. So if you're
Okay.
just curious about this notion of like, what are really concrete steps that I would take, how does
Yeah.
this actually work as opposed to being some woo-woo concept, like how did you make your life different?
Yeah.
Then that's available too. And the truth is, I mean, I'm with you. If somebody wants to explore it, they want a coupon, they want to they have a scholarship need, just send me an email. We'll figure it out. Like
Yeah.
that's
I,
uh
I I get the genuine feeling that you're here to help people. It's not a get rich quick scheme or anything like that.
well, it's
And
certainly not that.
it's a get rich slow scheme.
Yeah,
But like you seem like a guy with good intentions. And I find that some of the best people I talk to are also their own best clients.
Hmm.
And like I much prefer to learn from people who've played on the field versus somebody who's talking strictly through theories and stuff like that.
And honestly, me too, and I was that guy for a while.
Yeah,
My first book is so like tech. I worked so hard to sound smart, and like I knew how the world and the universe worked. And
yeah,
I look back on it, and I still like it, but it was just such a
sure,
different place. And then
yeah,
life happens, and and all those stories are there. My second book was written after my mom contracted leukemia, and how we found integrating our spiritual beliefs and how the the
Yeah.
world work really guided us through that experience. So it's like, okay, life happens, and so that felt very practical. And now, my latest manuscript is very much, and Convergence is like, oh yeah, but let's really talk about, how daily life works and what's
Yeah.
expected of us and what opportunities are there. And that's what I want to invite people to understand. And I've been through the feeling stuck, and I've been through
Yeah.
the hardest of times, and
Yeah.
and
We've all
uh,
had moments where we feel broken
yeah,
and
yeah,
unfixable.
right,
And,
yeah,
I think as we get older, like for me, it's become easier to talk about the things that I think and believe. And,
hmm,
and when I do my podcast, like I don't hold anything back. I
yeah,
speak
good,
truly what I'm thinking and where I'm at. And, if you look at the guy that you're talking to right now, 6, 7 years ago, wasn't the same version. And
of
then
course
6 or 7 years before that, not the same version.
right,
Right. And as I've gotten older, I realized, to your point, I'm not so different than other people.
right,
And there are people like me, and there's help for people that are going through similar situations, whatever your situation is.
right.
Yeah. And just having this conversation, I've learned a lot of, like, pay attention to certain things, listen to your certain voices, but don't allow one to dominate at all times, and kind of get your team to work together.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's really the bottom line. And when it does, like
Hmm.
it just I don't want to say results don't matter. I want to say it brings us back to what we were saying before, which is it helps us not just trust, but
Yeah.
value and enjoy the process. And
Exactly.
we just, it's a big mind shift sometimes in the Western world to understand just how vital that
Yeah.
phrase, enjoying the process, is to true fulfillment.
Well, we'll wrap up on this part, but I listened to one of the podcasts you were talking about, and it was about being in the moment.
Hmm.
And a lot of us, there's so many distractions in life every day that you are wrapped up in everything, and you're trying to do too many things at one time, but you don't enjoy the moment that you're in and the things that are going good for you or bad for you.
Yeah,
But if you learn how to have that moment of presence, it can affect everything else you're doing. And
yeah.
the thought process with the three voices is being present enough to listen to what they're doing and putting the other distractions aside.
I agree completely.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the most amazing lessons after years of study of energy dynamics and manifestation and how it all works in this sense
Mhm.
that like, oh, I need to focus in on what I want and the future and where it's going to be and what's the result and what's the
Yeah.
outcome. The biggest and most profound ideological shift I've had in the last 4 years is if I'm cultivating the energy
Hmm.
that is powerful, that is attractive, that is joyous, that is loving, that is all of the things that I want to feel and experience in life, no matter what's happening around me,
Yeah.
then the things that happen around me will be things that continue and resonate
It's
on
like
that
a
frequency.
magnet.
It so is. And I so got the impression that I would get there someday.
Yeah.
And when I had those things, then I would get that energy. And it's just the exact opposite.
Yeah. The
Cultivate the
energy's there all
energy
the time.
in any way you can. I mean, like, that's part of why I moved to New York City. And it's
Yeah.
not because it's easy here. It's because for me, it's not everybody,
Yeah.
find your own place. It is a place that raises my energy level.
Yeah.
And so being here, like, I just am aware
There's
of
a
what
frequency.
there's a frequency. And that's the
Yeah.
amazing thing. And that's what some of the things in my program invite. There's no answer. There's find
Yeah.
your answer in everything that I do. And
Right.
some people, I have a friend who loves nature. He could take you out into the woods and show you, tell you every tree, and he'll be very present and notice things and awe at the wonder of it. And I do too.
Yeah.
But remarkably for me, I do that in an urban environment.
Yeah.
I see signs. I see kindness. I'm at awe in what man has created in these places. I'm overwhelmed by all of these people in the same place, and we're all getting along at the
Yeah.
minimum. But I also see really beautiful human interaction constantly, and that's just how I'm wired. That's what I see that raises my frequency.
Yeah.
everything I do is find your thing.
Yeah.
Find your thing, sport, reading, knowledge, beauty, music, art, hard work, labor, sweat,
Yeah.
tears, find your thing. And then
Yeah.
that's the key. It comes first.
And one of the things, and I'll leave you on this, is I always describe life as we're about the same age. Do you remember Spencer's stores?
Oh,
Like
sure.
in the mall. Do you
In the
remember the
mall, absolutely.
digital posters that are up on the wall? Like it was just pixels,
Oh,
and you'd
yeah.
have to stand in front of it and relax your
Uh-huh.
eyes.
Yeah.
That's life,
Yeah. And
right?
that 3D image would suddenly
Yeah, but
come.
once
Yeah.
you see those certain things, like the
Right.
joyous things around you at all
Right.
times and the good stuff that's happening over here, and this is over here, you can recognize it
Right.
all the time.
Right.
And it's not something you have to search for after a while, and it's present and you realize it's been around me the whole time. I just didn't see it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Beautiful metaphor. So
thank
that's
you.
so perfect. Yeah. I
And
really love it.
where
And
thanks. Where can people find your books? How can they contact you?
yeah, find me. The first portal is my website, davidallenbrown.com.
Mhm.
Note the middle name spelling. I'm sure it's in your show notes and stuff. But
ALAN.
ALAN, David Allen Brown. And yeah, and then if you go /convergence, you dive right into the convergence side. If you want to know
Okay.
me about a writer, there's some of that there too. If you want
Yeah.
to know about what I do in my professional world, it's on there too. But definitely ways to reach out to me. And that's the key. Like if anything appeals to you or you just have questions or like I say, you need a leg up in order to dive in, we'll
Yeah.
figure it out. I just want to talk
Awesome.
to people about this.
Well, I've enjoyed the conversation. Hang on one more sec, all right?
Yeah.
Hang on. Maybe about an hour and 20 minutes. It was pretty good.